Jesus was wrong. With this t-shirt, Dwayne walks around in the movie Little Miss Sunshine. Interesting starting point for a screensaver, I thought. Let's find out what drives Dwayne to spread this message. Dwayne is 15 and lives in a complex family. His biological father is out of the picture, but there's a plus father with whom Dwayne's mother has a 7-year-old daughter. The plus father's father also lives in with the family, and there's someone else joining them at the beginning of the film, Frank, the brother of Dwayne's mother. For 6 months, Dwayne has not spoken. Officially, this is because he's taken a vow of silence. He won't talk until his big dream comes true, getting an education to become a pilot in the Air Force. But there's more to it than that. When Frank asks about the reason for his silence, Dwayne points to the portrait of Friedrich Nietzsche. Moments before, we had seen Dwayne reading Nietzsche's Also sprach Zarathustra. We soon find out how Dwayne understands Nietzsche's nihilism. Frank asks about his friends. Dwayne nods no. Don't you have anyone? Frank asks in surprise. Dwayne takes out a notebook and writes, I hate everyone. What about your family? Tries Frank. Dwayne underlines everyone. With his entire being and apparently inspired by Nietzsche, Dwayne despises the world and everyone in it. His silence is his way of distancing himself from it. His dream of becoming a jet fighter pilot can be seen as his way of escaping it. In itself, that's enough reason to proclaim that Jesus was wrong. While Dwayne goes out of his way to isolate himself from the others, Jesus urges commitment in all possible terms. I hate everyone versus love your neighbor. Incidentally, you initially sense in the 15-year-old's attitude and words an adolescent dislike that ignores the finer points of Nietzsche's nihilism. Nietzsche doesn't promote hatred per se. He opposes the kind of philosophy of life he sees at work in the church of his time. The 19th century philosopher opposes Jesus and Christianity because he recognizes in them a glorification of moral weakness. For Nietzsche, prioritizing care and forgiveness is irresponsible. Caring for the weak prevents the strong from becoming even stronger. Forgiveness slackens the necessary struggle for survival. So, according to Nietzsche, Jesus is not right when he says, love your enemy, or blessed are the meek, or be merciful as the Father is merciful. According to the nihilist, whoever complies with this command makes man smaller and thus evades his calling to raise humanity to a new level, the Übermensch. Later in the film, it's revealed that Dwayne's hatred for his family is indeed fueled by their failures. Not coincidentally, this happens at the very moment when the bubble of his own untouchability bursts open. With his entire family, Dwayne is on the road in an old VW van when he comes to the painful discovery that he's colorblind. That means he can't become a pilot in the Air Force. The car is literally too small for Dwayne's grief. Stomping and bumping, he tries to break out of the car. When his plus father finally stops, he sprints outside down a slope. He falls to his knees and a heart-rending primal cry leaves his body. Then silence sets in. At the top of the slope, next to the car, is his family. They realize how hard this must be for the boy. At the same time, they're under time pressure and want him back in the car to continue the ride. The question is whether Dwayne will be able to return. First, his mother goes to him. "Dwayne, I'm so sorry," she says, and asks him to get back in. Dwayne refuses. "For better or worse, we're your family," his mother pleads. Dwayne breaks down. "You're not my family, okay? I don't want to be your family. I hate you fucking people. I hate you. Divorce, bankrupt, suicide. You're fucking losers. You're losers." We don't know much about the divorce, but it's clearly about his mother. Bankruptcy is looming for his plus father. The suicide refers to the reason why Dwayne's uncle is there. He's just survived a failed attempt. So, there they are, the three adults with whom Dwayne must continue his journey. Desperate they are, because it's not untrue what Dwayne is snapping at them, and they have no idea how to get the distraught boy back on board. Literally on board the VW van, figuratively aboard the project called family. Later in the film, Dwayne will say he would prefer to sleep until he's 18 to avoid high school and all the misery that comes with it. And then Marcel Proust comes to the fore, another Corfie from the collection of 19th century thinkers. Frank lectures on this author of the unsurpassed and almost unread book In Search of Lost Time. Proust was a total loser, Frank says. But looking back at the end of his life, he discovers that it was precisely the years of misery that made him who he is. So, if you sleep until you're 18, think of the suffering you're gonna miss. And just like that, the beginnings of a smile appear on Dwayne's face. It is at this moment that he finds the strength to take back control of his own destiny. Yet, this doesn't seem to me to be the most important evolution in the character. To see his biggest leap forward, we have to return to the slope. Above is the Volkswagen with Dwayne's family. Below, the distraught boy who can only curse and resent. No one knows how he will get back on board. Until Olive descends, his 7-year-old sister. She kneels beside her brother, and without a word she puts her hand on his left shoulder and her head on his right. And then, almost a miracle. Out of nowhere, Dwayne mutters, "Okay, let's go." They climb back to the car, Dwayne even carrying his sister for a bit, and at the top, something has to be said. For the first time, we hear Dwayne really communicate. "I apologize for the things I said. I was upset and I didn't really mean them." This is not the kind of language that pleased Nietzsche. Rather, this is the language of Jesus. The hurt man who finds the strength to stand up thanks to the fragile and tender closeness of someone who loves him, who asks for forgiveness and hopes to be welcomed back into the fragile reality of the family he's part of. Beware, this breakthrough does not come out of nowhere. Despite his unsociable attitude, Dwayne has shown before that he is susceptible to familial tenderness. As the grandfather is hospitalized and they sit anxiously awaiting news, Dwayne's mother prepares her children for a potentially fatal outcome. In a cracking voice, she confides to them, "Whatever happens, we're family. What's important is that we love each other. I love you guys so much." Of course, there's little our 50-year-old who despises his family can do with that, you would think. But Dwayne rises above himself. He takes out his notebook and writes a message for his sister. "Go hug Mum." Knowing what is right, what is needed, knowing what you would do best, but not being able to act because of inner obstacles. We've all been there. It's a kind of imprisonment, a form of paralysis. Well, that's what changes when Olive puts her arm around her big brother at the bottom of the slope. The captive is freed, the paralyzed rises. And as a result, Dwayne chooses to join his family in making a fool of themselves at the end of the film. Olive participates in a beauty pageant and turns out to be absolutely not up to standard. Her solo dance arouses pity and outrage. However, her father prevents her from being taken off stage. Instead, he dances along, and soon Frank too puts himself on display. The old Dwayne would have turned away scornfully, but suddenly there he is, on stage, along with his dysfunctional family. His family. Sometimes the greatest strength shows itself in putting up with each other's weakness. In the end, it comes down to continuing to choose love. Jesus was right.